Welcome to Someone's Gotta Drive. Today, I'm going to go back to when we decided to go to Hawaii. Honestly, my now husband, he's a tax accountant. And for the past few years, what kind of helped get me through tax season with him working long hours, 6 days a week and everything else was date nights. And funny enough, actually, planning our vacations. In years past, we had gone to Puerto Rico, and this time in particular, I wanted to go to Hawaii, and he wasn't denying me. And it really kind of helped. It kept me busy booking our trip to Hawaii, and also having Friday night date night was something that kind of made me feel a little special. I never really needed much, but that was just enough. I had booked our flights to leave on May 1st because, well, he really hated it when I booked our flights like 2 days after the tax deadline. Sometimes the tax deadline changes because of federal holidays or it being on a weekend or something like that. And additionally, he hadn't been home for like 4 months. So he really didn't feel like traveling somewhere 2 days after the deadline. So I booked our flights for May 1st through May 10th and decided that, instead of going to all the islands or island hopping, as much as I also very much wanted to see the volcanoes, we actually decided to just stick with Maui. We're not really nightlife people. It's just not who we are. And so Maui was kind of perfect for that. On top of that, Maui, it had a lot more kind of like outdoor activities to do. We love to hike and explore. And this kind of had that. Everyone, leading up to May 1st kept saying, he's going to propose, right? He's going to propose. And honestly, I had no clue. I was the one booking the vacation, making all the plans. I knew what was in the bank account, so I knew that he hadn't purchased a ring. There was no sign, no inkling that he was going to propose. We had talked in the past about, how we saw a future with each other, but I had also made it very clear when I got divorced that I did want some technically single time. So we never really brought it up again, but once again, there was no inkling. We actually went out on May 1st, and the first day, we'll just say travel. I made sure that I had an Instacart order waiting for me at the little condo that we rented, so that way I could make sure we had coffee and things like that in the morning. We purposefully booked a condo because when we were in Puerto Rico, we stayed at a resort. And yes, it's nice that someone else always kind of cooks for you, but there were times where we didn't want to eat what was at the resort. We did have to venture out, and sometimes it just didn't always feel safe. So, he asked me if I would kind of get something like a condo where we had our own kitchen and we could make our own coffee. And honestly, if he wanted me to make dinner one night, I could do that too. We just wanted to have a little bit more of like the luxuries and comforts of home. So the next day, we got into our rental car and we just explored Maui. We just drove around, seeing what all we could see. The island isn't that big. You can definitely almost see the whole island in a day, but there are lots of places that you just kind of want to go to and take the day to explore. So that day in particular, we just kind of drove around just to kind of get a lay of the land, as you would say, and just get an idea of what we were looking at. I remember that day, like making sure to put swim trunks in the car because we started driving out that morning and we were going to all these beaches and whatnot and realizing we weren't wearing any swim trunks or bathing suits, nothing like that. And so we kind of felt like we had to go back to the condo, kind of pack the car with, swim clothes and beach towels and stuff like that. And I remember grabbing some of his, grabbing like a bathing suit, and he was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I was just like, "I'm just getting your swim trunks." "Oh, no, 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 I'll get that, I'll get that." And that just kind of like, okay, whatever. But his stomach was really bothering him. And it had been bothering him actually since we left New Jersey. I honestly just kind of chalked it up to what I would call travel stomach. That's kind of where your stomach just doesn't really handle the altitude of being in the plane for so long too well, or you're just not around your home throne. So it just doesn't, your stomach just doesn't really quite do what it normally would do when you're home. And that day, his stomach was bothering him. Once again, just kind of chalked it up to traveling. The next day, we went to what was called the Iona Valley. Stunning, gorgeous. My hair didn't want to cooperate, but it never does on any tropical vacation that we take. It is what it is. But with that being said, that night, he went back to the condo and he said, "You know what? You should probably find a place where we can have a really nice romantic meal." And anytime that we travel to some far off land, no matter where it is, I like to have what I would call the local crustacean. I grew up in Maryland. I grew up crabbing. I love crabs, let's be real. When we went to Puerto Rico, though, I had to have the local crustacean. Down there it was the Caribbean lobster. And in Hawaii, they have their own lobster as well. So honestly, I had really been looking forward to it. But we had also actually gotten there right in the nick of time for the season to be ending. So that meant that I might have had a week or two to get some fresh local lobster, because honestly, after that, they were out of season, so they couldn't fish them. One of the great things I really loved about Maui, though, was the fresh seafood. They had fishermen that were out all the time catching fresh fish for the day, and it just really made their food top notch. So we went out to this really beautiful restaurant called Pacifico's, and right now it is 2026, and a lot of people still remember the horrific wildfires that had hit Maui. So I can tell you this, Pacifico's is no longer there in Lahaina. And so we went to this really beautiful restaurant right on the beach. And I remember getting this lobster dish. And I asked them, actually, I was like, "Where's the lobster from?" And they're like, "Oh, it's from Maine." And I was like, "Wait a minute. You have lobster in your water right here and you're shipping it in from Maine? Like, why are you doing that?" My husband, on the other hand, had some local fish special that they had, and he absolutely loved his dinner. Meanwhile, mine was honestly a little tough. And when he was asking me, "So, how you like your dinner?" I was like, "It's good," but I was being a little critical too, and going, "It's a little tough, and I just don't understand why they would ship lobster in from Maine when they literally have it right off their coast here." But whatever. That night, actually, while we were at dinner, I had family members who were texting and messaging me going, "We know you're in Hawaii. Are you okay?" Because at the same time, the volcanoes were erupting on the big island. And so I had to explain to everybody, "We're not on that island, but thanks for checking in." And it was actually quite interesting to be there while the volcanoes were erupting, even though we weren't on that island. Afterwards, that night, we decided to take a stroll on the beach. It was gorgeous. In the moonlight, you could see an island out in the background. It was just gorgeous. And he just looks at me and says, "You know how we say love you forever?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I turn around and he's on one knee with a ring in his hand. And he's like, "Will you marry me?" I mean it. It took every ounce of strength in me to say yes before I could say, "Where the hell did you get that ring?" because I mean it. I was like, I had no idea that he was going to propose. He gave no sign, no inkling. The only thing that could have been any sign or inkling was honestly his stomach. And even then, we had just traveled 14 hours in a plane with a layover. I kind of anticipated that was probably from the traveling, not because of his nerves. But believe it or not, he was like, I'm so happy to have asked you and done it so quickly. And I was like, really, why? And he's like, because my stomach has been so messed up from my nerves. I've been so nervous about this. I couldn't believe how nervous he was to ask me to marry him. I didn't even think that was something that he really wanted. He's made it really clear that he didn't want kids either. But now he's starting to make clear that, no, he wants a wife and kids, and he wants to be married, and he wants to do all the things. It was the most refreshing, giddy, exciting time of my life. He had given me so much to look forward to. He had practically saved me from my last marriage. And, you know, there were times where I just never really felt worthy. And that was kind of part of wanting to be, technically single, was I didn't really kind of feel worthy. I did want to know what it felt like to just kind of be me for once and be like, what does it matter? You don't want to get married. You don't I just kind of let loose and just me be me and do me. And here I am now engaged. He wants this. He wants me for me. That's so crazy. I remember it being 8 o'clock at night, Maui time, and that meant 2 o'clock in the morning here on the East Coast. And of course I said yes. Of course I asked, where the hell did you get that ring from? And to find out, the ring was actually his grandmother's. And his family had been holding on to it. He is the oldest of the boys. And they felt that when it was time for him to get married, that he got to have it. And honestly, his mom just looked at him and said, we know she's the one. So when you're ready, the ring's ready too. His aunt actually was holding on to it for the longest time and said the same thing. So 8 o'clock at night, Maui time, 2 a.m. East Coast, and I'm texting my sister saying, he just proposed. And I said yes. And she woke up, and it took her a minute, but she was the only person I texted at that time because I knew it was 2 a.m. here. And I really didn't expect her to wake up or answer it. But she was so happy. My sister was just like, this is worth waking up at 2 a.m. for, completely. And it was actually kind of hard for her to go back to sleep even, simply because she was so excited and so happy. The next day, we let some family members know before posting anything publicly. And we got lots of congratulations. I even texted my adopted father. I got a nice congratulations from him too. But when I asked if he would walk me down the aisle or if I could, present him and his girlfriend as the parents of the bride, I got no response. And honestly, I wasn't about to really push the matter. Shortly after that, I believe I did wish him a happy Father's Day as well. And I didn't get a response to that either. And that's what kind of made me realize from that moment on that, honestly, we're probably never going to talk again. He never wanted to get married again. He made that very clear. My mom really screwed that up for him. And honestly, it's probably just a touchy subject. I always wish him happiness because that's all he's ever deserved. He was a good man to us and a good man to my mother. And I just want to see him happy, even if that means without me. In the meantime, we decided to go to, I think it was the road to Hana the next day. It's funny. A lot of people, when they go to Maui, they rent, like Mustangs and convertibles or Jeeps, lots of Jeeps. And they didn't have any Jeeps available for us, so we just kind of rented a little 4-door sedan and called it a day. And boy, am I happy I did that. Instead of taking like some like vacation tour bus guide type deal for the road to Hana, we decided to do that drive on our own. So we got to stop and do things as we pleased. But that also meant I had to be the one to drive on these extremely narrow roads. And yeah, it took all day. We had read up to make sure bring like some banana bread with you, some snacks, some drinks, because there isn't really many places to stop along the way. And boy, were they right. There is one place you can stop on the way, though, and I always recommend it, and I hope he's still there. But my husband and I just simply refer to it as jungle food. There's a guy who has this wood-burning kind of barbecue a few miles down. And I mean it. The best pork belly you would ever have. And it's not a recipe that he gives or anything. He just is on the side of the road. He cooks this up. He puts it in like a husk, with some rice and some pork belly. And it is just amazing. And I always recommend going there if you're ever in the area. We made our way down. We made our way back. And it took a whole day, that was for sure. We had dinner like we always did and made our way back to the condo. The next day, I really just kind of wanted to hang back. I was so tired. And you have to understand that, a lot of people say, you're on vacation. Shouldn't you just be like sitting by the beach or whatever? But in all fairness, I don't sit very well by the beach. I actually burn very well by the beach. So I often don't want to sit by the beach at all, but this day in particular, I was just exhausted. I too work hard, and I just needed a day of rest. But honestly, the second we tried resting, reading a book, staying at the condo, which had a pool, my husband was getting homesick. He just didn't want to sit around. We did the best we could to make do of the day, but I just really needed some rest. I was just so exhausted. We tried hiking a little bit. It just really didn't work. So we just made our way to Lahaina, had some more dinner, and, enjoyed the banyan tree and things like that. That's how Maui kind of went, though. Each day we tried to go for a little hike, explore lava fields, explore a new town in Maui. We didn't really do a lot of like the pineapple or sugarcane fields. You could see them on every drive. And honestly, we actually didn't do a luau either. And people are like, you went to Hawaii and didn't do a luau? Well, let me be real. I don't do well in crowds. And honestly, my husband does not mind that. And it was also kind of a buffet style. We were just really anxious and nervous and decided against those things. We did go to Mama's Fish House, which I do recommend. Probably the best meal I had there. There's a place called Captain Jack's that did reopen since the fires, and they actually had the best fish tacos. So even to this day, my husband tries to get me to make fish tacos exactly the way we had it out at Captain Jack's. And it's hard because you can't get wahoo fish out here, which is what they use most often for their fish dishes, like fish tacos. But you can substitute cod for that. It's just still not the same. Maui had to have been the most magical so far. I have been engaged and felt more in love than ever. And honestly, I was going back to work telling some of the guys, you know what? You're right. He did propose. Life was good. Life was not just good, it was great. But I also knew, now that we had this engagement, that we wanted a long engagement. We didn't want to get married, immediately. And as much as I much rather go and, honestly, I wanted a destination wedding. I wanted to, like, go somewhere where, honestly, my family couldn't really get to me. I'd pay for my sister, but other than that, I just, we lived in a studio apartment anyways, so we didn't have room, and I had already been through the whole big wedding thing. I wanted something a little small, but my husband, he wanted something big. He wanted something proper. And if you don't know New Jersey yet, one thing you should know about New Jersey is they are very much known for their extravagant weddings. As much as we didn't want something too extravagant, he wanted something that was going to be just perfect enough that his grandparents could come to. And with them at their age and my grandfather at his age, we knew they couldn't exactly travel too far. So we decided to go ahead and plan the perfect wedding. To be honest with you, that engagement lasted about 18 months, which was pretty perfect for us. My husband, like I said, he didn't want a short engagement. He wanted something a little longer so he could enjoy calling me his fiance for a while. He wouldn't even say the word wife until the day we got married. And for him, he would say, well, this is the only time that I'm going to be able to call you my fiance. After that, you're always going to be my wife. So I kind of want to enjoy it for a while. And it was just those little things that just made me feel all warm and tingly inside, knowing that, in all fairness, he just wanted me. Even though, yeah, he wanted to call me his fiance, or he wanted to call me whatever he wanted to call me. He just wanted me. And that was honestly the most exciting part of it all.